Good afternoon, everyone. Let's do a quick sound check. Hopefully, you guys can hear us and see us clearly. What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, it's time for the big number, the big
It
show.
it is time for the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is going to happen on a Wednesday this year for the markets. So, welcome everyone. We do know that Nvidia is going to come out and release their earnings, probably the biggest earnings of the last decade, from what we've been hearing on Topstep TV from a few folks. So, hopefully, you can hear us and see us pretty clearly. We'll do a quick introductions. I am Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. This is At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, our goal is to review what happened in the markets for the day, or what's going to come up, and see how we could take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep Performance Coach for a little over a year. Been trading for about 11 years. Started off with stocks and options, moved over to futures, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for a year as a performance coach. About 4 decades of experience trading futures, and I'm also, like Coach Jay, a basketball coach, performance coach, and we're here to help you improve, to learn, and hopefully become a profitable trader.
And today we are here to talk about Nvidia. So Nvidia, we know, is one of the biggest companies in the world right now, and releasing their earnings. We've heard a bunch of talk on Topstep TV about how big this report is going to be. And Peter Tuchman earlier in the week was saying he talked to Dan Ives and said this is the most anticipated earnings report in the last decade. So this is either going to be a big show or a big nothing, but we will see in a few minutes. Just kind of going through Nvidia, Coach. Why is this such a big deal?
Yeah.
Nvidia is a huge company, like we said, one of the biggest in the world. 8.14% of the Nasdaq is weighted towards Nvidia, and 6.67% of the S&P is weighted towards Nvidia. The second biggest company in both of those indices. So you tell me, Coach, why is this important?
Well, but that with that kind of weighting, all right, it's going to make a big difference on the indices. Um, Not only the indices, it's going to make an effect on our futures. How does it affect us? Well, it's going to affect the Nasdaq and the S&P. That is the bottom line.
Right.
So coming into this report, we have to understand, you know, I look at it, what the result is,
Correct.
what the market action happens after the news.
Yeah, absolutely. We know the way it's been going, kind of Nvidia runs the world. How Nvidia goes, the market goes, and Nvidia was down today 2.1%. We talked a little bit yesterday about the Nasdaq potentially being in a consolidation prior to this report, but we did see a sell-off before it. So right now, Nvidia is moving up. Let's see. I only have. Let's see if I can extend that to extended trading hours. There we go. Now we can see the move after hours. Right now, we see a little bit of a perk up. Expected move in Nvidia, based on options data, is right around 11%. So $138 to the upside, $111 to the downside,
Wow.
or somewhere in between. Right now, it looks like the report might have leaked a little early. Let's go over to this financials page on TradingView, and when that comes out, we will see it. So right now, earnings per share estimate is 65 cents per share is the estimate. So we will see what that comes out as. And revenue estimates right now 28.74 billion. So we will see what comes out of Nvidia.
What was that number?
A lot. 28 point
That's
$28.74 billion in revenue estimates. Last quarter was 24 and a half, and they beat that by 5.9%. So we will see what happens. Not seeing anything out yet.
big move happening right now in Nasdaq on the 1 minute chart.
See if we can go
Oh
back to
wow,
the
just
and look at this. Look at this whipsaw. We'll watch Nvidia again. Expected move to the upside, $138. Expected move to the downside, 111. These things are getting pretty whippy. I'm going to switch over to the Nasdaq real quick, and we can see.
And
what that is doing.
I just, as a comment here, as a trader, this is not a place to trade.
Oh, our accounts are
Our
closed right
job,
now.
and what is our role? We're there to follow the flow. There's
Right.
not much flow here, and let the big money go in first, and let them take the anxiety and the beating,
Mm,
and we just follow.
absolutely.
Um, I think it's fortunate that as a top step trader, you can't trade right now. It's just
Yeah,
not
I, I
possible.
I would definitely agree with that. Not seeing anything yet on TradingView. Let me check Financial Juice to see if we have anything out. Uh,
If anyone in the chat has heard anything, let us know.
Here we go. I've seen it in the chat from Adam. Uh, Earnings per share 68 cents, so better than what was expected. Estimate was
Mhm.
65. And then I'm seeing a revenue beat 30 billion and the estimate was 28. So a big beat on both sides,
Wow.
on earnings per share and revenue. And let's see how that affects price, where we know that sounds good for the company, but again, the market is going to respond the way the market wants to respond to it. And let's see if we get somewhere near that upside target, $138 potentially, or do we stay in this range? Obviously, we know the earnings call is coming out a little bit later. We could probably tune into that. I believe it starts at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So you can check that out on the Nvidia website if you want to listen into the call. But guidance, like Coach Hoop just said, is going to be the key. And that is likely what we'll hear on that call.
So the guidance comes in after the number, probably towards with the end of our broadcast,
Yep.
and that's when they talk to the media. Um, my experience with guidance is they're not going to say, "Wow, this is going to be terrible. Uh, get out." But here's the result: they beat. That right there.
Yep.
Now, in light of the break we had today, Coach, you have any feelings about that?
Feelings about the just the move
The
that we.
action prior to this number.
So really interesting, right? We talked a lot yesterday about, and I'll switch back over to Top X. We talked about the consolidation that the Nasdaq and the ES were in prior to this number coming out, and maybe expecting a little bit more of a consolidation, but we started to break early. I'll switch over, take some of these stuff off the charts. I'll switch over to a 30-minute chart real quick, but we sat in this consolidation, and this market is still just in a higher time frame consolidation. We can see this breakout that we had in the middle of August, right around 19,157. We broke out to 19,358. Higher time frame, we're still in balance. Uh, I did not expect to see the sell-off that we got today, but sometimes it might just be sell the rumor, right? Where the move is going to happen prior to the news coming out.
Well, Coach, you made a great point yesterday.
Oh, big
We
move
were
in
talking
Nvidia.
about expectations for today, right? We then and then you said, "Well, I don't expect much before the," and then we had the 300-point break.
Yep.
But you said something, but we don't know, right?
Right.
And that comes down to that's the bottom line in futures trading, and that's why we focus on risk management. We're starting to get a little more movement to the downside here
Yes,
on
we
positive
are.
earnings.
Again, and Dakota made a great point in the chat as well. Earnings beats are getting smaller, so curious on the earnings call. It's a good point, right? They've, exceeded expectations the last couple of quarters, right, where we're seeing 10% beats on what was expected, and this is almost in line, right? Earnings per share kind of in line. The revenue they did beat, but maybe not as much as in the past. And again, the market is going to respond to that, like, hey, yes, maybe they are strong, but not as strong as we thought, right? So again, those expected moves that we saw prior to the number, 11%. 138 was to the high side, 111 was to the downside, and we can see right now we're kind of tracking towards that downside number 111. Nvidia trading 115 right now. I'm going to switch over to a 30-minute chart so we can get, actually, let's go to a daily so we can get a higher time frame look at what is going on here.
Yeah, Coach, can
Uh,
you put the 50-day moving average and the 20-day moving average on there?
so the daily is not going to show me the data, but I get
Okay.
what you're saying, Coach. We check uh, the moving averages, and I believe the 200 moving average was right around $85, and the 50-day moving average was at 110. So from
Okay.
a technical perspective, right, very interesting areas we're coming down to.
I found interesting in the Nasdaq, um, the high today was the 50-day moving average at 19,656 area. And it's moving down. We closed below it the last few days, and we have the 20-day moving average in the Nasdaq right below this level here, 19,135 right now. It'll be
19,135.
interesting to see coming in tomorrow. That's going to be a big, level for me. Um, I know a lot of funds watch that, and we're approaching it. Um, but good numbers. Thanks, Coach Dakota. That's a great insight. These are smaller
Yeah,
earnings
than expected.
growth. Key growth. It's smaller than they have been, but positive. Um, but for all your traders, tomorrow's really was what to me that the volume's going to come in. Volume right now in Nvidia in stocks is very small relative to what it's going to be tomorrow.
Absolutely,
Um, uh, I'm going to watch the first half an hour before I make any decisions and let the big players come in. Um, and then I can make a much better decision.
for sure. And again, we're seeing a bounce, right? We just traded down towards 115. Coach, I do have those daily moving averages up. If you guys can see my screen, the yellow moving average up top here is the 20 moving average, right around $116 right now. The 50 moving average is this purple one at $109. And then all the way down here, we have the 200 moving average at $87. And if we zoom out on Nvidia, the last time we hit that 200 moving average was a long time ago. The price was
Eh,
15 bucks, and that was January of 2023. Again, $15 split adjusted price. But even the 50-day moving average, coach, we don't trade that very often in Nvidia, and if we do, it doesn't spend a lot of time down there. So, um,
Oh,
some of
that's a
these
good point.
expected move levels are right around those moving averages where we've seen this market from a technical perspective bounce a few times. So will be very interesting to see how this trades going into tonight and tomorrow's session.
Yeah, there's someone that has a question. Extended trip. Do you guys have any expectations for overnight price action?
Uh, Volatility. That's my expectation, honestly, right? Because I don't think many of the market participants that are going to be able to trade Nvidia are not going to be able to do it overnight, right? So we may see some volatility in the Nasdaq, but if we look at, and I'll go back down to a shorter time frame, Nvidia is still very much in the range that it's been in, right? So I think a lot of the
Yeah.
move that we're expecting to see is likely going to happen in tomorrow's session when we do have higher volume. So what I could expect from the Nasdaq today, once the market reopens and into tonight is some type of volatility. Let's go back to Topstep X, and if we can pull up the DOM in the Nasdaq right now, you can see how thin this is. Um, I expect a lot of this until tomorrow's session, right? Right now, and yes, the markets are closed, so they're going to be thin anyway. But we're seeing about a 6 tick spread. Ones and twos on the books and not a lot more than that. Let's go to a thicker market in the ES because we know this does affect the ES as well. Same thing on the ES, right? The ES, actually, nope, that's not the ES. There's the ES, but a very thin market as well, right? Again, after hours, so it's going to be thin anyway, but the ES looks a lot like a NASDAQ DOM right now. I'm expecting that until we see some of the volume come back into the market tomorrow.
That's a great question. I personally have no expectations. I personally wouldn't. I don't want to trade this unless I see something is set up that I'm looking for. Um, so I, I, that's where I'm at. When I have expectations, I get anchored to them, and it gets me into trouble.
Yeah,
I would I would ask, how about the audience? What are your expectations? What do you think about this?
Yeah, let us know in the chat. We can't run a poll yet, but let us know in the chat what you're
Uh,
expecting for tomorrow, right? Are you expecting some upside, downside? We talked about Nvidia, and to me, I'm going to be listening into that earnings call right after we get off of here, just to see if if there's any more information to kind of glean from that. But what are you guys thinking in the chat?
Also, can you let's review what the results were again, if you have those
Yep,
of the earnings,
let's go
the
through
numbers.
one more time. Where did TradingView go? It's over here. Let's see if it updated on TradingView. It hasn't updated on TradingView
Yeah, they probably
yet. I
probably have
got it on.
technical difficulties.
They're probably trading right now. Um,
Yeah,
so I have revenue, 30 billion. Estimate was 28.86. So they beat on revenue. Adjusted earnings per share, 68 cents. Estimate was 64 cents. Adjusted gross margin, 75.7%. Estimate was 75.5%. Um, their data center revenue was up. Data center
data
revenue up.
center revenue.
Yep. Gaming revenue up. So really they beat on everything pretty much, but like Dakota said, maybe not as much as the market expected, and that's why we're seeing us kind of stay in this range currently.
Yeah, they're smaller earnings. So to review that, um, we have better than expected, but less than it's at a slower pace.
Right. Hey, look at that. We got a chat. We got a poll in the chat. Market expectations tomorrow: long, short, flat, or do not know. Thank you
Do-
to the Topstep team for putting that poll in there.
Yeah,
Thank you guys. Uh, but I'm seeing some more stuff on Financial Juice here. Blackwell production ramp is scheduled to begin in fourth quarter, and that is their AI chip, if I'm not incorrect about that, and they're looking like they're going to start producing those in the fourth quarter. So more money likely to come into Nvidia once they start producing and selling those. And Coach Dakota with the poll. Thank you, Coach Dakota, for that. He has the superpowers. Um,
yeah, yes.
on
Coach
polls,
Dakota, do you have expectations for tonight?
announced $50 billion stock buyback. I did not see that, but that's a lot. Oh, there we go. Right at the end, announces $50 billion stock buyback. Tomorrow's going to be
Wow.
a very interesting trade. And not even just tomorrow, right? What does that mean going through the rest of the quarter and then the rest of the year, right? Again, we're not going to hear another earnings report from Nvidia for another quarter, but if we're seeing a share buyback and we're seeing you know positive earnings, does that mean that there's more upside here, right? I did see some, and I think they were on TradingView, so we'll go back to that. Or was it forecast? Kind of 1 year forecast, that $200 mark is up there. Um, it seems far, right? But we know how these things can move.
$15 was a long time ago too.
Yes, it was.
Um, so and forecasting for us traders can get us into trouble.
Yep.
We have to stay in the present, right? So looking at let's look at the Nasdaq reaction.
All right. Let's go back to the Nasdaq, and then we'll get into the trades that we did make today, where there was so opportunity, and ultimately that's what we want to look at. How can we trade this, right? And most of us at Top Step trading Top Step accounts. In these accounts, we're not trading Nvidia. So how does this affect the Nasdaq? And let's look at a higher time frame chart to start, Coach. Let's look at the daily.
Okay. Well, as we've talked about, we peaked um, last week. The volatility or average true range started going down, and it usually shows that a market, when that happens, I mean, it usually shows that the market is at balance and it has a chance to turn around or just stop.
Yeah.
Um, when we've witnessed that Now, looking at this, that's why I use the moving averages. Looking at the 20 will be my key. If we settle under that tomorrow, I'm going to get pretty bearish. But from right here, I would look at an opportunity to buy it at the 20-day moving average. And then as more information comes, I'll use the shorter term. How about you, Coach? Hello?
Good now. One, two, three. Can you hear me?
Barely. Now we can hear you.
Okay.
We
There we go.
lost you there for the last minute.
Yeah, sorry about that. $5 on my own show. Who do I pay that to?
Seems like your mic is rubbing up against something.
Give me 1 second.
There
Coach, if
you
you can,
are.
if you can just talk for a little bit.
Okay. As Coach Jay gets his microphone set, we made new lows here in the Nasdaq in the last half an hour. We're holding those lows. Really, not much of a reaction, as dramatic as we would have anticipated. On low volume, and once again, low volume. The big players are not in this market right now.
Right.
So when we come overnight, we're going to find out, and then on the first half an hour of trading, we're going to find out. As in poker, you're going to show your hand. Are you going to ante up and play the game, or are you out? So right now, I think it's muted response.
I would agree. And hopefully you can hear me better now.
Much better.
All right, awesome. I see some jokesters in the chat saying I got a mic from Timu. I need to reach out. I need to reach out to the people at Rode, because this is a Rode mic that had some pretty good reviews. But all that matters is that you guys can hear me. So hopefully we got all the
That's
audio
brutal.
issues fixed. Yeah, and we'll go from there. This is not a Timu mic. That's
Um,
fine. Maybe I should have got one though.
I'm the older guy here. I should be getting stuff from Timu, not you.
Right. But yeah, like you said, Coach, we closed under the 50-day moving average in the Nasdaq, and that 20 moving average down at 19,100, we'll call it, is going to be important, right? We are less than a daily ATR away from that 20 moving average, and right now it's under the 50, which means in at least a shorter time frame, we're still in this downtrend. We talked a lot last week about the lack of volume here, and I heard you just mention it as well. And any of these down moves, we're seeing more volume. So I don't know that this market is in the clear for a buy currently, and maybe down at some of these higher prices. I thought what was really interesting, we've seen a pattern in the NASDAQ, and we kind of called it out, Coach, but if you look at a 30-minute chart, we've kind of just been stair-stepping lower at every major level. I'm going to take these moving averages off so we can just see price. But I want to point out, since 20,000, how the NASDAQ has responded to whole number levels, right? We can see back on August 22nd, we looked up near 20,000, no buyers, we sold off. We get somewhat of a relief rally. We look at 19,900, we sell off. We trade up above 19,900 in the overnight session, but as soon as we get back into New York, where the volume comes in, we look at 19,800, we sell off. And it's been rinse and repeat, right? Where we trade up overnight during the New York session, we trade up to, and this is going back to yesterday, we trade to 19,700 and cannot hold above it. We sell off, maybe not as violent because we knew Nvidia was coming up today. And then again today in the overnight, we trade up to a major level, 19,700, and sell off. So on a higher time frame, this market has just been stair-stepping lower. with the volume that comes in during the New York session, selling it off, right? We see a little bit of a relief rally in the Asian London session, and then as soon as New York comes in, we're selling it again. And today, they kind of expedited that selling. There was not a bid in this market.
Very interesting, coach. You think that's algorithmic? That would be my
I,
first
I think
guess.
so. I think so. Yeah, I would say so. It looks like an algo, where it's just, hey, every major level that we get to, sell it. And the selling didn't look precise. It looked like, hey, we have to sell these orders and we're just getting out of it. Um, it's what it looked like to me. Can you hear me, coach?
I can hear you. You're
Okay.
good.
All right, cool.
I
Just
would
making sure.
also I know you made a good point about the volume. This has been lower volume on that rally. And when the selling comes in, it's larger volume. Is that what I heard?
That's correct. Yeah. Anytime we get a down move, it's on higher volume. A lot of the up moves are on lower volumes, which again just kind of confirm
That's
that these are not convinced buyers in these markets right now.
that I would tag that with the term liquidation.
Hmm.
It seems to me like larger players are liquidating. What going forward? Would you look for a large, if for at the end of the correction, some large buy volume, and then go
Yeah.
from there?
Yeah, markets are made to go up, right? Where
Yep.
we don't necessarily need a reason to go up. I'm looking at some. Let's see if we can anchor a VWAP to the yearly open,
Yeah, I love doing that.
and we're still far away from it, but we see it's not a price that we haven't checked in the past, right? This sell off that we had from 21,000, check that that yearly anchored VWAP before we pop back up again. And if we're looking at this here, price right now is at 19,338. The yearly VWAP is at 18,486. So it's 1,000 points away, a little less than 1,000 points away, but it's not out of the question, right? And again, depending on how the market opens tomorrow with Nvidia, if we do have other big news coming out as well, do want to check financial juice for what we have coming out tomorrow. We have jobless claims out tomorrow. We have a GDP number out tomorrow.
Oh, GDP is out tomorrow.
Yep. We have a core PCE prices advance number. So there are still some catalysts in this market that can move it. Nvidia being one of the biggest, but there are other market moving events that are coming out that can, potentially push us lower. And from a higher time frame volume perspective, again, I did not see the convinced buying in this move that looked like buyers pushing us higher. It looked kind of like short covering from this move that we had down.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yep.
That was almost a record amount of buying days in a row.
Hmm.
And there's an old Pete Stottlemyre once told me is you want to become a good trader, try to find out where the buyers stop buying and the sellers stop selling overall.
Correct.
And that one seems like right there. I mean, we had all those days of buying, they stopped, and what's the result?
Yep.
Um,
Back to balance. Let's talk about trades. Let's go to a shorter time frame. We did have some trades in the house account today, down on the trades in the morning during fast markets, but really nice job to the team during power hour to make that recovery in the S&Ps. But today was just kind of a trend day lower. We talked a lot about this, opening range and anchoring a VWAP to that opening range. Coach, in the first 9 minutes, the volume was selling this off, right? Selling this market off. Um, I was surprised by it, right? Ultimately, I did get on the right side of the trend and get short this market. But I was surprised, again, looking at today as potentially a range bound day, that we moved this early and that heavily right off the open. And if we look at this anchored, I'll remove this one so we can see which one we're clearly talking about. This yellow line here is anchored VWAP from the New York session open. Every time we got back up to there, it's kind of just confirming what we're saying, right? Sellers
Coach,
continued. Yep.
before we go further, can we explain for our new viewers what we're looking for, what you do here? Is this
Yeah.
the 3-minute chart?
Correct. This is a 3 minute chart. You can do it on any time frame. But what this is, I'm looking at the opening range. You'll hear Hogue use a 1 minute opening range. I use a 3, some traders use 5, some use 15. It's all the same concept. The market opens, establishes a range, and then what we want to do is determine how the market trades based on that range, right? Does it stay in the range? Does it trade to the upside or the downside? And just for me, for a visual cue, I anchor VWAP to that opening range, and that's telling me, right? So not only is price moving lower, volume is moving lower as well, which means sellers are selling this market off.
They're in control, and they came out, and this is one thing. I've been around a long time,
Mhm.
and this is one of the. I learned a lot from working with Coach Jay, and this one was really important because yesterday we're talking. Expectations was we're going to wait for Nvidia earnings,
Right.
right? Not expecting a full average true range to the downside like we got.
Not at all.
So coming in here, framing that out, what do we see? Instantly with VWAP that the sellers were urgent. The selling was, I call it urgent.
Mhm.
It's called hit the bid. What's the next bid? Hit that too. Um, and it was an onslaught.
Yeah. Yeah, they did not stop selling literally all day. We did see, and I think the trade that the guys caught during Power Hour was the short covering rally that we saw into the close, kind of right back to VWAP. So really nice trade there. Again, that was an ES trade, but same concept, right? We can switch over to the ES. Uh, very heavy selling to start the day, and then we got the short covering rally into the close back to VWAP, which these guys did catch. So really nice trade there. Uh,
Yeah, that was a nice trade. And, looking at, just reviewing days and from the opening to the close, we had the move, right?
mhm.
And it looked, as Coach Hogue says, it's always darkest at the lows, right? If you're if you're long or looking to buy in it, and what I see there on that right is the probabilities. We've talked about this when the farther away you get from VWAP,
Mhm.
the more probable it's going to come flying back. So let's go back to the open, all right, where VWAP is established, and we get some information that they're in control. But the farther away we get, uh, it's harder or less advantageous to get short.
Right.
Um, Sometimes, at least I can. I get really greedy. Well,
Yeah,
and in day trading, that can be death.
it can.
I've had to work on that to take what's given, um, and don't try to hit home runs every day.
Can't, can't all be Aaron Judge.
Yes,
We
no, we
cannot
can't.
all be Aaron Judge. We got a question. Why is NQ moving so much in the PM? Nvidia earnings. Nvidia earnings were out and affecting the Nasdaq, but of course we cannot trade it during this time. We got a lot of new viewers here. I want to thank everyone for joining us. We are going to continue this session, but I want to ask everyone to go ahead and hit that thumbs up if you like what you heard. If this is your first time here, let's get some crowd participation. Let us know where you're from in the chat, and I'll go through some of our housekeeping here.
Okay,
We
while you're doing your housekeeping,
mhm,
I'll second that. Please hit that like button. It sounds repetition, but it really matters to us. Um, and also, I'd like to hear how your day went. We usually ask this question here.
yep,
And one of the things we go through is what did we learn anything today
yeah,
as a trader? Reviewing your trades. We talk about keeping a journal. If you had a great day, that's just as important as a bad day.
yeah,
What was it that that you really got a hold of? Because sometimes bad trading days or losing trading days, you could have traded very well.
absolutely.
right?
Some, yeah, yeah,
It's like I made money and I traded poorly, or I traded the best I could and I lost money. And one of the things when you're reviewing that, hey, that's where you can gain a lot of insight. Um, I've learned, doing that with working with Coach Jay, and I've been around a long time. Um, but it really comes down to you or us as individuals, because we're all different, and
yep,
sometimes we'll shy away from reviewing. Just go, oh, the market was wrong, or I don't, and throw caution to the wind.
right.
So if we get if out in the audience, if you have, let us know how you did, or you think you traded well.
Let us know. And I see, people from all over, which is great to see. Thank you again to all of you for joining us. Something Coach just mentioned, just kind of reviewing your trades, and that's normally how this segment goes, right? We review the trades of the day, but of course, we had the big Nvidia earnings, but all of that, all of the news, the noise, the excitement of, oh wow, Nvidia is going up and down. It doesn't mean much if we can't take advantage of it as traders. Um, and one thing we have the advantage of with trade review and things like that are performance stats in TopStep X. I'm going to switch over here real quick. We have this performance stats page. This is a new combine that I started. Again, we're trying to get this 100K to an XFA so we can review these trades during at the buzzer. But all of your stats are here, right? A lot of the information that you need for your trades are going to be here. For me, I need to hold my trades longer than 15 seconds because anything under 15 seconds is a loser. Those are some quick scalp trades. But you have all of your information for your trades here. Review that. I know Coach Dakota does it all the time on slow markets. We had that great segment in Shoulder Tap the other day where he went through a trader's reports. Review these on your own. And again, you don't have to do it every day, but make sure you spend some time, maybe over the weekend, after a week, maybe a month, to review your stats and see how you're doing. Right? We don't know what we need to change if we don't measure it. So I think it's really important to use this. And then the second thing I think it's really important to use is the daily loss limit. Um, if you heard the news last Sunday, TopStep removed the daily loss limit for any new accounts. So if you purchase a new account, if you reset your account or start a new XFA, it is not going to have a standard daily loss limit. You're going to need to go ahead and set one for yourself. The way you're going to do that, in the settings tab over here, you have your risk settings, personal daily loss limit. You can set this to whatever you want to set it to. Uh, so I'm going to say 750. You have an option to change it to do nothing, liquidate, where it's going to close you out of position, or liquidate and block. Liquidate and block is going to close you out. You cannot trade anymore. And then you have a personal daily profit target as well that you can set for the same settings. So, if you're starting a new TopstepX account, make sure you go ahead and set a daily loss limit that makes sense for your trading, right? You want to know what your average days look like. You want to check that performance stats and say, hey, my average winning days are about $300. I can't really afford to lose 750 every day. So I want to set my personal loss limit to 200, right? So at least if I win more than I lose, I'm still a profitable trader. So make sure you go ahead and set that personal daily loss limit. Again, make it make sense for your trading, a lot more control over your own. And you can see I used the lockout button today on this account. Again, I was trying to get this account to the point of an XFA. I could hit that, consistency target of $3,100. But I realized in my own trading, it's like, hey, you had a good day in this account. I felt that feeling of, hey, let's just push it. So tomorrow we don't have to, or the next day we don't have to. And I was like, you know what? That's that voice that has not, boded well in the past for my trading. So let's just quiet it, shut them up, lock us out, and be okay with where we are, and we can trade tomorrow. I don't need to pass tomorrow. I don't need to pass by the end of this week. Just going to go ahead and continue to take good trades and let the market present opportunity to me.
Uh, Coach, you know my feeling on this.
Yep.
And I'll for the new viewers, if you don't have it, it's use it.
Yep.
Take my advice. I've blown a few accounts in my career. I
Hmm.
haven't done it in a long time, and I won't, because when I'm down 12% of my equity, I'm done. Um, Knowing this, when we're in what we'll call, everybody knows is tilt, it's too late. I mean, it's at that point you're really blocking out any kind of someone people could tell you stop, but you're like, yeah, 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 right?
Right.
Because you're not listening. But I consider it. If anybody out there is a jet test pilot,
Mhm.
right? They have ejection seats for a reason.
Right.
Oh, I consider it it's an ejection seat. If things aren't working, I don't. Boom, it's gone. And once that's done, I'd imagine if you're that parachute, you want to hug the parachute. It's going. It's going. I can't say this. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it happens.
Right.
And I think the best way getting out of that is to be ejected. I keep it tight because at the end of the day, your job is to protect your capital so you can trade again tomorrow.
Absolutely. Got to be in the game to win the game.
There you go.
So make sure you set that daily loss limit. Doesn't matter how much money you can make if you can't control how much you lose. The way we normally start these segments on a quieter day when there's not Nvidia earnings, we kind of talked about that a little bit, but there are other markets out there as well. Let's go over the top percentage movers and then we'll get into gold and crude oil. To the downside, we had a 2.65% down move in platinum, 2.86% down in silver, and micro Bitcoin
Wow.
futures down 4.46% for our biggest percentage movers to the downside. To the upside, if you can look at this quote board I have over here, not a lot to the upside today. A lot of red on the
Boy,
board.
that's bleeding red. Yeah.
Yeah, but nat gas up 0.62%, soybean oil up 0.67%, and wheat futures up 1.07% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. Gold was down 0.5%, and crude oil is somewhere on this list, 1.51% to the downside in crude oil. We know we did have crude oil inventories out last night. So let's talk about crude and then we'll go into gold. Um,
Hey,
Go
Coach,
ahead,
while you
coach.
have that crude up, can you
Yeah,
we had a question from Teresa
okay.
Garman. Can you show us how to anchor the VWAP?
Absolutely. Let's do it in crude oil and we're going to anchor VWAP. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. As far as strategy goes, you're going to find, where it makes sense for you to anchor your VWAP. But in TopStep X on the left side of your charts here, you have the drawing tools. If you don't see it, click this little arrow and open that up. And we're going to go into forecasting and measurement tools, right? So I'm going to click this right arrow. I have anchored VWAP here. I just put a star next to it, so it's in my favorites. And you can see I have this little drawing toolbar up here. I'm going to click on the anchored VWAP icon and then just click on a candle that I want to anchor it to. For me, I'm usually going to click anchor it as a default to the market open, right? So the floor open, if you will, for crude oil is 8 a.m. Central Time. I'm going to anchor one there. For the equities, right, that's 8:30 Central Time, so I'm going to anchor one there. And then the other place I'm going to anchor mine are high volume events. So if there's a newsprint, if there is FOMC, if there's just some random high volume in the middle of the day, I'm going to anchor VWAP there because I want to know how the market responds since that market event. And for crude oil, we have this 9:30 Central Time inventory report that came out. We can anchor a VWAP to there. Let's look at how the market responded. Right, we can obviously see it in the price action. That price is going higher. But the reason I like to use VWAP is because not only is price going higher, coach, volume is going higher. And every time we came back to check this VWAP on the way up, at least for a short time period, it was a support, right? Buyers kept stepping in and pushing that market higher.
And also, it's easy to get rid of. Show 'em, but um, you just click on the line of VWAP,
Hmm.
and then you'll see in the toolbar you can get rid of it by hitting the garbage can, and it disappears. It's really easy.
Yeah,
Uh, I've used a few different platforms. There's none easier than this one.
absolutely. You also have this garbage can, trash can icon on your drawing tools. If you want to remove all the drawings and indicators, you can click on that and do that as well. But we
I
did
didn't
have,
know that.
I learned that from chat the other day. So shout out to the community for always sharing information. I know we have a bunch of traders that are accustomed to trading view charts. I've been using Quantower for the last couple of years. So there is definitely an adjustment period here. But we had crude inventories out. Let me see if I can get exactly what the number was. What I will tell you, I don't even know the number, but I guarantee you it was a miss. The forecast was negative 2.775 million barrels, and we came in at negative zero point 0.8. So a big miss on crude oil inventories there. And again, how does that
Oh,
affect the markets? I'm going to frame out that news candle. Again, it came out at 9:30 Central Time. Personally, I'm going to anchor a view out to there and see how the market responds. Um, Prior to it, and we did have crude down, 1.5% today. Let's put on Topstep daily level so we can see where settlement was. Crude settled at 75.54 yesterday. So we did have a downtrend into that inventories number, but pretty much right after inventories reported, we checked right
funny,
back. Go ahead.
where did that market go to?
Right back to settlement. Right back to settlement. We've been hearing a lot of talk about settlement on Topstep TV recently. I remember when we first started Topstep TV and Dan Hodgman was on trading crude oil. His whole strategy was based around trading crude around settlement. And when it does things like this, I can understand why. Again, anything we're talking about is for educational purposes. Nothing is, a suggestion to take a trade in any fashion. But when you see the market repeat patterns over and over, those are the opportunities that we want to take advantage of. And then we closed right back where that inventory print was, um, violently unchanged.
Violently unchanged. And I'll give you a little background about settlement because I work for the exchange. I've also been a member of the pit committee where we settled. Um, it, it- the settlement comes from the exchange, and that's what all the accounts now. As day traders, we don't have to really worry about settlement. But if you have positions, or you're a large institution, or you're a farmer who's hedging, whatever. It really means a lot because that's what's going to show up in your statement, and it can especially if we're at the end of the month. um, it it's a big deal for players who have positions, and so here S&Ps. What time did they close? A settlement's going to come off the 3 o'clock Central
Okay.
area. And then it moves from there, and then there's the close, which is the final print at 4 o'clock Central. So there's an hour of movement, but the settlement is important, and the fact is, the word is settle. This is where you're going to get marked to that price or marked to market. Um, and that's just a perspective I wanted to share.
I appreciate that, coach. And again, that price, what does that mean for our trades? When the market trades back up there, that price means something to someone, right? So we'll see a reaction to it. You'll see it in the quote board. For me, anytime I see the quote board for a specific market, going red to green, green to red, red to green, it's like the market's trying to make a decision whether it's going to close up or down for the day. So I want to watch the price action to see are buyers stepping in or are sellers stepping in. So a really nice level to look at. Again, top step levels on Topstep X. It's just an indicator. You can add Topstep levels. We have them for crude oil, gold, ES, and the NASDAQ for now. But we also have the Topstep daily levels website, right? So some of the levels that myself, Coach Paul, Coach Ray, Coach Vince, Coach Jack with the Ags are looking at, those are going to be on the Topstep daily levels site. And I'll put that link in the chat. You guys do want to check that out. And again, these are not suggestions to take a trade at any of these levels. These are just areas of opportunity that we're looking at the market and saying, hey, it can potentially trade there. It's up to you as the trader to determine how you trade that level, how you manage your risk around it if you decide to use it. As far as crude goes for the rest of the week, potentially, I'm going to look at this inventory print, Coach. 74.37 was the high. 74.06 was the low. And we know that there was a reaction to news there. So what I'm looking at is how does the market respond to that news after it prints? We know that crude has been in this higher time frame range, where we're calling the low of the range 71.50, the high of the range 80, and I tried not to say it, but I had to. Um, but right now we're kind of in the middle of that, right? So if I'm looking at these moving averages, the 20 and the 50 are now below the 200 moving average. We closed below it. Does that act as somewhat of a resistance? And we see another move down to the low of this range. We do know that this market is heavily news affected, right? Any headlines, potential war headlines can expedite moves in crude oil. So you always have to watch out for that. But from a technical perspective, it looks like a move back down towards the bottom of that range.
In a price, they're not to be mentioned, 74, 73.
Right. Right. We will see where it goes. Anything else you got on crude before we go to gold, coach?
No, being under the 200 bar moving average there gives me a bias to sell it.
Yeah.
But crude is for a lot of people are having a tough time there.
Hmm.
Um, I I think there's better trades. Um,
Got you.
so
Got you.
don't see much there,
Thank you for that,
except
coach.
for I might fill my tank real quick before the Labor Day weekend.
And then before we move on to gold, I just do want to check on Nvidia one more time before we move on to gold. Right now, Nvidia trading $118 a C. Nancy Matthews, thank you for that in the chat. Nvidia revenue up 15% from previous quarter. Right now, trading 118. Again, the measured moves based on options data, expected move was down to 111 or up to 138. Uh, I
And
got to
we're
talk to
inside of that.
we are inside of that range right now, trading towards the low of it. But yeah, we are inside that range right now. $7 from that expected move to the low. And again, if we go back to the daily on Nvidia, the 220 moving average on the daily is down at 115, and the 50 is at 109. Let's go
So
back.
nothing
Go ahead.
really dramatic at all.
Not
Nothing
yet.
really dramatic at all.
Not yet. We will see what tomorrow brings. Um, Coach, you want to take gold?
Um, sure. Um, is this the 30-minute chart?
This is a 3-minute chart, so I'll switch it over to a 30.
Uh,
Got the put your moving averages up here, and I actually did take a short in gold last night, which I held it. But,
uh, boy,
but
we are getting a spin cycle in gold. The first thing I can see that as soon as I told you I love gold. By the way, I love the micro gold for most of our top step traders.
right,
I know that you can trade a couple of them and get a move, but here I'm wow. this is
yeah,
it's, what's the take out of it? I glad I'm not trading it.
hmm
But for mean revision traders, I'm sure there was some great um, trades in there.
right.
But overall, gold is in an uptrend. I mean, it may sound obvious, right? But in that half an hour, we're getting choppy again. Let's start with the daily.
I had to get those lines off the chart.
Yeah,
Um, so they were driving me
getting
crazy. Uh,
yeah.
here's oh, what just happened. Oh, I got signed out. Let me sign back in here. Oh no.
Uh-oh. You know your password. Close your eyes, everyone.
uh, here we go. All right,
All
we'll go
right.
to
Well,
TradingView. We'll look at it on TradingView. No problem. Go to TradingView. Here it is on a daily. I'll remove.
all right. So
There
we
we
had a
go.
down day, um, but well within the range, expected range. Still, I'm still looking to buy it. Um, but is we're we're just struggling here. And
Yeah.
that happens in every market. Um, but I'm still looking for a place to buy it. Overall, I think we get down to the 20-day moving average. I'll put a note on that. That's where
20-day
I
moving
think,
average right now at 2503. Major number
yeah,
down there, major psych level, right? 2500. Looks like a nice area to bounce.
yeah. Um, Overall, two things are going on here. It's Labor Day weekend's coming, and it's the end of the month.
Right.
So tomorrow after this, actually kind of a non-event, right? The way I look at it,
So far, we'll see what again that volume when that
yeah.
volume comes in tomorrow. But yeah, non-event so far.
Um, and the end of the month, um, big, there's big funds don't really allocate at the end of the month. Um, they wait for the beginning
Right.
unless they save some of the powder. Um,
Got to make sure
I
those
don't want to get
bonuses look
too
good.
technical. Yeah, well, for window, it's called window dressing,
Right.
right? But it's been a pretty big month. I think we're going to just grind for the next couple of days. I could be wrong. That's my expectation, but I don't trade my expectations. I just trade in the present.
Absolutely.
So, um, gold, I don't see much happening. Um, for me, well, how do you see this?
A range bound market. I talked a little bit about this yesterday, where a pattern is a pattern until it breaks. So if it gave the opportunity, I was going to take the that range bound trade right on a higher time frame. I have been trying to improve, excuse me, at trading range bound markets. So I did take a short. I took a short during slow markets last night, right around 25.59. And again, I said I need to improve my range bound trading, so I should have held it. But I saw the profits, got some acceleration during slow markets, and you thought, hey, you know what? This is a decent amount of volume for this time of night. So it was a quick trade, and again, managed risk as far as I thought. If we do, let's go back to today. Here we go. If we do just break out, right, we're seeing the market turn, kind of make a high here. Um, and I didn't want to just take it at a level, right, where I didn't want to just say, hey, if we get to 25.60, I'm going to short. I want to see the market turn first and then get in it because that gives me the opportunity to limit risk, right? If I got short 25.60 here, uh, yes, the market did stop 4 points higher, but what if it needed 10 points before it turned around? That was my thought process. So on the way back down, looks like we set the high for that range, got short at 25.59, was able to risk the highs, so about 5 points. And I think I took a 1.5 to 1 on it.
Nice.
Would have turned out to be a bigger trade, but again, stuck in that range. And if it stays here, where we started to, we can see right on a 30-minute chart, we made some, right? We had these lows at 25.40. Uh, we pushed lower than that, right? We broke lower than this. We did have, where was it, last Friday? And I'll just do this real quick. So last Friday, we know we had Jackson Hole, and that was one of the candles we were looking at as a potential support, right? That's candle holding as a support. Right now, it looks like a resistance, right? So 25.41 is the low of that candle. Can we accept back inside of that, or does it act as a resistance now? And we see that range extend to the low side. But anything can happen. But I think it has been providing opportunities, but have to trade it like a range bound market.
Okay, well, we've got a minute left.
Oh,
I just wanted to review today. Um, First of all, thanks for tuning in. If you please hit the like button if you liked what you saw and join us again. I wanted to thank Coach Jay for hosting this. This is not an easy thing. He does a great job at it. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So good
got a
job,
good
Coach.
co-pilot.
Uh, uh, I like being the co-pilot.
I got a good
So
co-pilot.
for our traders out there, good luck. And I'll say it all the time, and repeat it: manage your risk and you manage your account, and you'll succeed.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Coach. Again, appreciate you and love doing this segment with you. I think it's going to continue to grow, and hopefully, we're helping traders in their journeys with reviewing these markets. So, thank you everyone for joining. Do remember that we do have programming pretty much 23 hours a day on TopStep. Coach Ray and Coach Vince are doing classes in Discord. They start at 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central Time. And then we have Dakota, of course, for slow markets at 7:30 Central, and Deanna for the London Open at 3:30 a.m. Central Time. All of these are recorded, so if you don't get to watch it while it's live, you always get to go back and watch the recordings afterwards. Thank you, everyone. One more time before we go, make sure you hit that like button, tell your friends and family to subscribe, and we will talk to you all tomorrow. Have a good night. Bye.
Right.